Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, it's another special edition. On location at the Guns and Gear television studio. Today, we're talking new calibers, holsters, guns, lasers, and more. Now, here's Tom.
All right, it's Gun Talk. The first question is, did you ever start something thinking this cannot go well? Oh, my goodness. We are doing our experimental thing here. We're doing radio and we're doing TV at the same time. We're on the set of Guns and Gear, and we're shooting our Guns and Gear television show. I have Paul Pluff from Smith & Wesson and Rob Leatham from Springfield Armory have joined me now, and this is probably the closest I will have an entire hour of having any control over this.
It's going to be minimal, though, Tom.
Minimal control is about all we're going to be talking about here. So, all right, guys, we had first of all, we're doing Guns and Gear. You're showing new stuff, cool stuff. I know you guys brought things where we talked about that as we go along here. But, we want to touch on a few other things. And I guess what we ought to do is at least let people know who may not, believe it or not, may not know who you guys are. Paul, how long have you been with Smith & Wesson?
Well, listen, I'm a rookie there. I got several years to go before I know what I'm doing, but I've been there about 36 years.
Yeah, I've heard people say that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I never said that because I still want something from him.
Yeah, that's right. He's your source.
He's my source.
That's exactly right. No, you've been, and you've done customer service. You've done, pretty much everything that can be done there.
Well, I started out 36 years ago as a gunsmith and a fitter, and have covered the gamut, running different various manufacturing departments, customer service, ran sales and marketing, and now doing marketing communications. So,
wow, that's a whole lot to do.
Did you make up that title? I like that, marketing communications.
Yeah, that was me. I didn't like what they were calling me before.
You thought you'd supply something so they would have something to call you that you liked.
Yeah,
okay.
They said, well, that's interesting. Hey, let's go with that.
Okay, we'll try that for a while. And Rob, a new guy into the world of shooting here, so he's getting him started. So actually, like 47,000-time world champion shooter at least,
that's it.
And started shooting when he was 2. Actually, not too far from that. How old were you when you started shooting?
Tom, I don't remember not shooting. My earliest memories still are camping trips where we'd go shooting.
Yeah,
we'd go
really?
hiking, shooting. Yeah, so I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. I was a big kid, so it really wasn't a problem to control it, and I just fell in love with pistols early on.
Well, wait a minute, you were a big kid, so what's different from then to now?
Not a thing has changed except the years, Paul.
Nothing at all. Yeah, I always tell people he's the biggest 12-year-old you'll ever meet.
Ever going to run into.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, okay, well, there you go. But when did you start shooting competitively?
You mean when was I competitive, or when did I start shooting competition?
There's
a difference.
There is that. Okay, shooting competition.
My first match I shot was in 1978. There was a formal organized match. I shot a lot of just guys getting together and what most people do, thinking way before that.
Sure.
So 78 was my first match, and 81 was my first national championship level match.
So when did you win your first match of any type?
Of any type?
Yeah.
1978.
The first year you started
I won the first match I ever shot.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. Why wouldn't I?
That's right. Well,
I cheated.
Isn't that the goal?
Yeah.
Well, why do we show up?
I cheated, so of course I won.
Well, of course you did. We had a great conversation last night. We got, among the other things we talked about, we spent a lot of time on gun safety. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things I wanted to just kind of talk about, because you guys have probably taught thousands and thousands of people to shoot through the years, both of you. And, you have a technique and all of that, but you also have an ethos, a way of looking at gun safety. And if you would, I'd love to get you to talk about that, because I've been trying to talk to people about how it's not something you do, it becomes who you are. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. When you bring people in, for instance, if you bring them in, shooters come in and they've been playing video games their whole life. They don't have the same concern for like muzzle control that you and I would have, who probably shot pistols and rifles and shotguns, destructive devices from the very, very get-go.
Right.
And the very first thing you were ever taught was you're never pointing that thing at anything that you're not willing to shoot.
Right.
And if you came up from the video game direction, my kids are kind of like that. They've all been taught the firearm safety side of it too, but it's still uncomfortable for me when we play paintball.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's how deeply ingrained it is for me. Is I love shooting my kids with paintballs. Don't let me get you wrong. Don't take that wrong. I really do like shooting.
Of course.
Paintball.
I mean, there is that. But I understand what you're saying. It's like the first time that somebody checked me for a fit on a shotgun, and you mount your gun and you point the barrels
right at their head,
right at their eye.
Yeah,
and I'm
is
just going, I can't do that.
That's funny because that exact same thing happened to me. I'd had lots of off-the-rack guns, and then I got a Krieghoff K80, and I went over there and built a custom stock. And the first thing they have you do is point the gun at my eye. I'm like,
excuse me?
What?
Yeah.
I can't do that. It says you have to do that. That's the fitting process.
That's how you fit a gun.
So do you have a mirror or something we can point at?
Yeah. It is very uncomfortable. I remember my first time doing that too. And listen, since we were, we've all been around guns since we were young, and that was something that was absolutely ingrained into you. Yeah. And to be able to do anything otherwise is very uncomfortable.
Well, if anything goes wrong and you don't point it at anything that you don't want to shoot, you'll have an accident that's not a tragedy necessarily.
Yeah, you have a loud noise, but not a catastrophe.
Right. And embarrassing in some points, but not a tragedy.
Yeah, and so we've got a question for you. Public ranges. Mm-hmm. You're at a public range, and you're being safe, and you're looking over there, and the guy next to you or down the line may not be as safe or may not be observing the safety protocols of the range, such as if you're downrange changing targets and they're back there handling guns.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, our public range at home, they're pretty good yellers. I don't tolerate any of that, Tom. I mean, the butthead side of me kind of comes out on that, and the first thing is like,
it actually comes out very often.
And easily.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, hey, put that down. I don't have a discussion with them. I just want that to stop happening.
Right, because in the 30 seconds we're having a conversation, other things can happen. So we need to make something happen right now.
I need them to put the gun down.
Put the gun down, and then we'll have the conversation.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do when we're running either a match or live range like that is I tell everybody's responsible for safety and responsible for the safety of that guy next to him and that guy over there. Mm-hmm. So there is not one safety officer on the range. I mean, you got to be everybody. You got to be laser tight in on it, and you got to be vocal about it, and you got to be in the mode that you don't worry about hurting somebody's feelings.
Right.
Safety briefing.
Got to be above that.
Yeah. When you get together with a group of people who are shooters, we typically will have just a real quick safety briefing. Just say, hey guys, I know everybody here knows what they're doing, but is it, seem reasonable?
Well, it is, and depending on how much information you want to pass to your listeners and viewers, what I tell my students when I do a class. Well, I tell them the line is always hot. So whoever's the most forward person on the range, that is the line at that point. So nobody's ever handling a gun behind anybody else. Wherever the line is, which is the furthest person forward on the range, you can handle your gun whenever you want.
Right, because you're pointing down range.
Right. I don't care, because you never point the gun anywhere but down range. It says in the other part, if you're pointing a gun at me, I assume we're having a gunfight, and it's on. Yeah. So don't do that.
Don't do that. You might not want to do that.
Don't do that.
With like 27,000-time world champion Rob Leatham. This is not a fight you want to get into here.
The outcome's not going to be good.
Yeah,
but it's always funny. You get one or two responses. You get dead silence sometimes.
Right.
And they're like, because they're actually considering what that option actually is. And I'm like, guys, it's a joke, but don't point your guns at me.
It's a
that
joke,
part's
but
not
I'm
a
making
joke.
a point here.
Yeah,
exactly right. Tell you what, hold on a second here. We'll take a quick break. We're talking with Rob Leatham from Springfield Armory, Paul Pluff from Smith & Wesson. And when we come back, we've got some cool new guns to tell you about. And you know what? You'll actually be able to see these guns when you go to our YouTube channel. Just look for Gun Talk there, and you'll be able to see us doing this. And if you think radio is silly, seeing us do radio, now that's really
you can see on the radio now?
That's right. You have to behave. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
Shenanigans are afoot.
Here, kitty, kitty.
Warm kitty, soft kitty,
nice kitty,
cuddly bird.
You never saw the
the big head probably, did you?
No.
We did Gun Talk 2 years ago. We were still in Birmingham, I think. And I'm not, imagine this, I'm not really paying attention.
Yeah.
I mean, shocker, right?
We're actually doing a piece for TV.
Yeah, we're shooting it, and the whole crew just starts going like this and smiling, and you're not gonna, when you're looking at the camera, you're not gonna start going, what's going on? You just go with it, like, oh yeah, we're having fun here, and then I look around as he walks away, and Ryan's got this head of me. It's my head that's like this big.
His head, it's huge.
Look at his head, it's huge. And he walks behind me, and yeah, so this is an ongoing game here. I need to keep an eye on Ryan.
Yeah,
he seems to be the instigator.
All right, we're back with you at Gun Talk. Tom Gresham here. Of course, we're in the suite here, the suit, what am I doing?
Suit?
You guys, we're in the studio. You did get me. You know what? You think you got me? What just happened to you during the break?
Yeah, it's coming back.
We're with Rob Leatham sitting here we also have Paul Pluff from Smith & Wesson, and
Well, he had a Hello Kitty moment.
He had a Hello Kitty moment, did he?
He did.
All right, Rob, what just happened during the break?
Oh, we're talking, and I'm on the left side. For those of you who don't, you need to go watch it you need to go watch this happen. Anyway, and I'm not really paying attention. I don't remember if he even said anything, but I just look, and then right here,
like 3 inches from his head.
There's a lion's head, and not like the Hello Kitty. It's a real one,
a real African lion.
So there are animals all over the place in here. This is like being at Disneyland.
Well, no, that was Hello Kitty after a bad night.
Yeah, so Ryan has walked up behind him with this rug with a full head of an African lion holding it right next to it. This is just an ongoing saga of a number of things that have happened to us through the years as we do these shoots.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, lots of shenanigans.
Lots of shenanigans.
All right. Speaking of shenanigans, it's a terrible transition, but we have a lot of guns here. Don't do shenanigans with guns. All right. I'm just going to start with you, Paul, because I'm sorry, Rob, but that's just a cool gun.
It is a cool gun. The coolest looking gun here is that one. Yeah. I don't even know what it is, and I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what is that thing?
Well, hey, listen, this is our latest addition to the M&P family. It's our carbon fiber look.
Carbon fiber M&P pistol. Got to have it.
You do. I mean, listen, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how good you look doing it. just to help you out.
That's bad for me,
I
Paul.
got bad news for you, dude.
And listen, if you want to look good doing it, this is really the way to go. As you can see, it's just an absolutely beautiful textured
It's a
gun.
Gorgeous pistol. Yeah. And you've got the carbon fiber going all the way out to the end of the frame there. It's just, and you still are able to have the replaceable back straps.
Absolutely. It comes with the 3 replaceable grip panels, so you can change your palm as well as right. far as, and also the front to back. So it really allows you to customize the gun to your hand. But it just, listen, every once in a while, you just got to go with style.
There you go.
And so that's what this thing's all about. It's beautiful, it's stylish, and it shoots.
Which model is that available in?
This is our M&P. It's available in 9 and 40 in our full size, as well as our compact series guns. So almost across the line.
Why not? And then the one next to it there is really sweet.
Yeah, this is we about a year ago we introduced the Core Series M&P out of our Performance Center, and Core standing for Competition Optics Ready. And has been a screaming success. A lot of competitive shooters are getting into it, wanting to use it, and it's nice if you're shooting USPSA or steel because you can, you pull off this little back panel here, and it has adapter plates so you can mount just about any red dot that you want on that without having.
That is really cool. I kind of see that as one of the really the next things. The guns are way ahead of the sights at this point.
Oh, they are.
It's true, isn't it?
That's our problem.
They are.
We don't yet have a $300 sight that's indestructible. They're getting there, and they're much better. And the reason is because people like Smith come out with models for it.
And people like you keep breaking things.
Well, and it's that's true. I'm a good tester.
Yeah. We need those testers. And actually, when you talk about that, one of the things we learned very quickly is when you're dealing with red dots, is the fact that, especially in a competition, just because of that slide movement, things can go right. A battery can die, the red dot can go out. So you'll notice on these things they have that extended rise sight.
So you could use the iron sights through the optic.
So if the dot's gone for whatever reason, battery's dead or it's broken,
just go down to your irons.
You've got iron sights
continue
there.
on, and that's the nice thing about that with the raised sight. It also allows you to co-witness those red dots, so it makes it really for the guy who's not used to a red dot, because you got to get used to it. It makes it that transition to a red dot very quick.
Right.
Yeah, when you draw that, you just basically come out and line up the iron sights, and there's the dot on the target, and you don't have to worry about the sights ever again.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it nice. And then again, we got that very aggressive. Stippling on
feels
there.
Good.
Things got great triggers. They use the Performance Center.
But somebody made holes in your barrel, dude.
Well, we did.
Somebody messed up your barrel.
We introduced that last
Quality
year.
control.
It is quality control, but what are you going to do? We introduced this last year, and the thing about having an optic-ready pistol like this for competition is when that shooter decides to use that and put an optic on it, it now becomes an open class gun.
It's immediately open class gun.
And Rob knows about that. So if you're going to do that, you can't fall short of what the gun needs to be.
Now, once you're in, you might as well be all in.
Right,
all
exactly.
in. And one of the things that was missing was compensation on the gun. So you needed to be compensated. And so that's what we did. I mean, as you guys can see here, we ported this gun. So now it's fully equipped for doing competition, and it's a very popular gun and doing very well. And we're really, really pleased with it.
So. At our club at home, probably the most common thing for a new shooter to do is come out with a production class gun, and as soon as they get to the match, they're not too concerned about which division they're shooting in.
Right.
What they really look at is how can I just move up the leaderboard on the whole overall thing. So if they show up with an otherwise production legal gun, they almost always immediately start throwing stuff on it that makes it not production legal anymore.
Right.
They'd be so far ahead.
They've moved themselves up, and maybe their shooting skill is not there yet. And they're competing with folks who are better shooters, frankly.
Right, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And I tell a shooter, well, you want an open gun because you'll beat all the other C-class shooters in production with it, but you realize you're not shooting against them anymore.
That's right. Now you're shooting against
now those other guys.
These other guys. Yeah, exactly. Now, Rob, what is this? Obviously, you've been with Springfield Armory a long time, but I heard some story about you being a Smith & Wesson shooter and winning a match.
Well,
what the heck was that?
Well, let's get the story straight because my boss may be listening. I don't want to get fired, but remember that match I told you in 1978, the very first match I shot that I won? I shot when I grew up, my parents did not like anything but revolvers. And to be specific, Colt Model Ps, Peacemakers, and Smith & Wesson double-action revolvers. That's all we had as a kid.
Right.
And my 16th birthday present was I don't know what dash it is. I think it's 27.2. Would that have been an old one back from...
That would have
357 Magnum in frame.
6.5-inch end frame.
That would have been a dash 2 back then.
Yeah.
With us, it had the square front sight, and I shot that gun right up to the point through that match where I won the revolver match at that event. I went home to my dad and told him, he said, how'd it go? I said, well, I won everything. He says, but in revolver division. It says, but 3 guys with autos beat me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reloading, Dad, so they're quicker. And at the time, I was loading the thing 2 at a time like this. So it was nothing real quick. And that's what soon led to it. But last year, because Jerry was nice enough not to go to the Revolver Nationals.
Thank you, good friend Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry, very much. I was able to win the USPSA Revolver Championships.
And since Springfield doesn't make a revolver.
They don't make a revolver. It's really not a conflict for us. And I've been at Smith & Wesson. I like a lot of gun companies. And I know a lot of people like Paul for many years. Yeah. And it's a tighter community, you think. It's really not.
The truth of it is, I mean, we're sitting there last night. We got people from various gun companies around the dinner table. We're gun guys.
We're gun guys.
We're just gun guys.
We are. We all do the same thing. We work for different companies, but there are guns I don't like, and there are companies I don't love. But Smith & Wesson isn't one of them. And I love those guys, and I love their products. I think the gun I shot last year was a first generation Super. So that's a 627.5 or something like that?
627.5.
Yeah, and that was a 38 Super, which kind of led to the newest gun.
There's a 929?
929.
920, yeah, okay, we're going to go there again.
Yeah. I wish I had a 929. I wish I knew somebody that could get me.
I'm sorry, Paul, I threw you under the bus.
He led me right to you.
Rob really wants this revolver,
but you know this. But I got to be honest, I'm very impressed with his ability to grovel and beg. He's gotten
shameless.
So good. He's gotten so good at it.
For a gun? Are you kidding me?
Shameless.
But you know what? I've known Rob for a lot of years, got a lot of respect for him and his ability, so he will end up with one.
Yeah, there you go. All right,
heard it. Everybody heard it, right?
There you go.
Everybody heard it.
We'll get you started. We probably won't be able to finish all of your stuff you got there. Okay, we got 2 minutes to go. So
All right.
Pick one gun. Tell us about that, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some others.
All right. Well, probably the most important critical gun for us right now is the XD Mod 2 in 45. We came out with a 9 and a 40 last year, and 45 just came out early this year.
Right.
It's basically a redesign of the grip frame. And, well, exterior, there's so little that's the same that you can't call it an XD.
But it feels different.
Oh, it is.
It feels very different.
It feels completely different. I mean, we've cut everything up a little higher, the reliefs, the shape of the grip, the texturing, we call it grip zone. I mean, it's funny that mechanically, you sit this on top of the XD, it looks the same, but in your hands, it's really two different animals.
Isn't it interesting how very subtle changes in contour and sizes, you can't even see them, but you pick it up and you go, oh, yeah, that's really different.
I can't show you in a picture, and I can't even really explain it until you put it in your hand and you go, okay, I understand what you're getting at.
Right. No, it's exactly right.
It's that little tuning thing that we love so much.
Well, yeah, and we find the same thing. You put a set of slim grip panels on a 1911
Changes everything.
And you look at it and you go, you didn't do anything to it.
Right.
But you pick it up and go, what'd you do to it?
Right, it's completely
That's
different.
so cool.
Right.
I'm such a fan of thin grips, and take a 1911 and put the thin grips on it, and all of a sudden, for me, and even with your big hands, you like smaller grips.
I don't like big grips. I actually have real fat fingers, but my actual, if you look at my hand is not big.
It's really not.
You and I both have fairly small hands.
No, it's not. We're comparing. We're holding hands up here and doing the whole.
Oh, look at Paul's the freak. Let me see. Yeah. Like,
live long and prosper.
Yeah, exactly. Spock's gone now.
There you go. And we will be too in just a minute. Hold that thought there. So, we're visiting with Paul, Pluff, Smith and Wesson, Rob Leatham for Springfield Armory. We're on the set of Guns and Gear. We're having a good time. You can join us by just tuning in. You can actually watch us on our YouTube channel. All right, we'll be right back with more Gun Talk. Fun stuff? We having a good time?
We're having a good time.
All right, when we come back,
I'm trying to think how much trouble I might be getting. I got to be careful.
all right, well, we're going to swap the guns out. You guys are going to swap shirts.
Wow, they really look different after the break.
So I've caused him heartburn a couple of times with his bosses. One was over the revolver. One time was I think it was an NRA show. He was over talking to Doug.
He's in the booth. Guys.
Yeah. So he's over in my booth talking, and he's over, and we're just having a conversation. And so one of his bosses come over, and they're kind of like that, and he goes, and I said, the best thing is people now have been, and we've announced out front that if they come to the Smith & Wesson booth, they can get both Doug Koenig and Rob Latham's autograph. He says, because we have them both in the booth, and they're happy to sign. And he shot you a look, and I went to myself, oh, that was probably a bad move.
Well, you know why?
It's a joke, but.
Yeah, well, and they get it. The funny part is that I tend to spend more time in other people's booths at the shows than I do mine.
Well, you know what's in your booth.
I know it's there.
You're a gun guy, so you're wandering around looking, oh, what's cool? This is neat.
Well, that's one of the things people just don't understand. I mean, gun guys are gun guys, and it's not like all I want to shoot is a Springfield Armory.
Yeah.
We don't make a revolver.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I can't. So I've got to go get one, and
well,
I love it.
For instance, you're a shotgun shooter too.
I love shotguns.
Yeah. You shoot clay birds.
Yeah,
actually shoot pretty darn well, as a matter of fact.
We don't really get to do that much with the pistols or the rifles.
No, we don't.
So you got to go somewhere. We can,
but
you can't need a really long range.
It's kind of like, same thing. Says, well, you don't shoot all those at the same time. How many do you really need? And I said, it's like Bill Cosby says on pudding.
My little friend.
Listen, it took every ounce of energy I had not to look at you and say, dude, nice rack.
Oh, so the wildlife is coming out. Who's got a loaded gun? I don't know what's coming next.
Here we are with all these guns and not a single
round to be found.
Covering all aspects of gun ownership every week on this fine radio station. You're listening to Gun Talk with Tom Gresham.
We are back, sitting there with Rob Leatham, Paul Pluff, talking guns during the break, of course. And then, It happens again.
It does.
This is a wildlife farm or something in here, a dead animal wildlife farm.
In the middle of Rob telling us he was very intense, was he not?
Oh, he was. I mean, I never seen him so serious all the years I've known him.
And you have an amazing restraint as he was being stalked by
I don't even know what it was.
something sneaked up on him from behind.
It had horns.
It had horns. And,
There were so many things rushing through my mind at the time for me to keep, it was difficult to keep a straight face. I gotta be honest with you.
If you've just tuned in, let me explain this. We've already gone off the rails here.
Yeah, the ongoing saga.
All right, so we're visiting with Rob Leatham from Springfield Armory and Paul Pluff from Smith & Wesson.
Yes, got it in there. My work is done.
You've done the mind meld thing on me, yes. So we're on the set of Guns and Gear. So we're doing TV here, and you guys are in town, and we're doing all this stuff, and we're doing a little radio/TV. And those that want to actually see us, all they have to do is go to the YouTube channel. Just look for Gun Talk. You'll see us there. So we were talking guns, and you're telling stories, and then we're talking. One of the things I wanted to ask you about. You said something during the break we ought to address, Rob. Now we got him spooked. Look at him. He's looking over his shoulder.
He is nervous.
He's checking his 6. You said something about there's a difference between gun owners and shooters, and I would throw in and hunters.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're all kind of different. We're all in the same. We all get categorized, in the same genre, but not to be negative. The purpose thing we're talking about is that my wife is a gun owner, and my wife is a shooter, but she's not what I call it, a gun nut.
Right.
I mean, I'm not offended by that term at all. I'm a gun nut
or gun geek or whatever you want to call it,
whatever term you want to use for it. And there's really a difference where she
uses guns.
She's a shooter, and she's four-time national champion.
Right.
But she doesn't walk around the house playing with them all the time.
Doesn't take them apart like you do and tweak
just
them.
Just to see what's in there.
Yeah.
It's different levels of passion for what it is. I mean, you can have a passion for hunting, you could have a passion for shooting, and you just can have a passion for guns. Mm-hmm. And guys like you and I just have a passion for guns.
Just love guns.
And the thing is, it's not just one of the things we were talking about last night is museums and gun collections and all that. It's not just the shooting of them. And this is a great gun and it shoots well, or it's not even just that it's pretty. It's like, did you see the cool mechanism on this, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and when you guys, and I've watched you through the years, both of you, you get a gun, and the first thing you're doing is you try it, you go, yep. And then it takes you about 20 seconds, and you're taking it apart.
Yeah. Well, you want to see what's in there. You want to see why it does what it does.
Yeah.
It's just that.
How do these things work? That's what I always wanted to know.
How do it know?
How do it know? Best punchline there is. Yeah. So there you go. Best joke. All right. So you showed us the Mod 2. You got some other funny looking guns there.
Well, we have a brand new design we've just come out called the 1911.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that refer to?
Well, literally, the 1911 would be originally a Colt government model 1911, which was a basis development out of the 1910 contract gun that we all know is
by John Moses
Browning.
Yes. Okay.
Finest design ever made, depending on whose viewpoint it is.
That's right, but it's out of date. But
it's totally out of date. Nobody will ever want one again.
Except that everybody's making them right. And they're just great guns. So what do you have?
Well, this is a 9mm range officer. Range officer alludes to a modification level. It means it has fiber optic sights and a extended thumb safety. But this particular version is a compact, which means it has a 4-inch barrel and a smaller, shorter frame than the full government. So it cuts probably about half an inch off the length to make it. But it has just like you were talking about, Tom, it has the skinny grips.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's a slimmed down version right there. That's a great carry gun.
All right. So that's kind of designed to be sort of a crossover gun, so that it's thin enough for concealed carry. It's as unobtrusive as it can possibly be.
Right.
And it's small. It's actually not particularly super light, even though it's an aluminum frame.
Yeah, but it's got to make it in 9. It's got to make a great shooter.
Oh, it's so easy to shoot. We were shooting some segments yesterday with Ryan. Even Ryan.
There we go.
Where is he?
Here we go.
Even Ryan was incredibly skilled and accurate with the.
It's amazing what you could do with video editing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure by the time you cut that, Ryan will be like national champion.
Paul, is there anything sweeter than shooting a 9mm 1911?
That happens to be one of my favorite guns. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. You gotta love the grip angle on a 1911. It's if you're a shooter.
He's a shooter.
He's
a shooter. He understands.
It's always right there. And then when you take that platform and put a 9mm in, it just makes it very quick, easy access, and very accurate. So it doesn't get any better than that.
Yesterday, on an online group that I'm on, guy says, okay, what is it about the 1911 that everybody gets so worked up about? And I said, 3 things. Says, 1, said the grip angle is simply perfect.
Right.
2, the trigger can be made perfect.
Absolutely.
And 3, you can accessorize it to your heart's content. How's that?
Yeah.
Well, listen, for us gun guys, it's our tinker toy.
Right. It's a small block Chevy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, just you know, I mean, you start
Take stuff off, bolt it on.
Right. I mean, I can remember I couldn't wait to get a plain Jane mil-spec 1911 just so I could play with it.
Just to start with that.
How long did yours stay stock? I remember my first one.
Well, you gotta. I mean,
it had a belt. Mine had a belt sander within minutes. I just had them.
A belt sander.
Well,
It's a long story, Tom. It's not good.
I did better than you. 'Cause, you know, I actually had to. You know, I had to put the box down and run to the restroom. So mine lasted probably 15 minutes before I started modifying
Started
it.
doing things to it.
No, that may be too much. And, you know, and gee, guys, that's fun to know, but it's time for us to take a break. So we're heading out of here. We're going to take a quick break. We're visiting with oh, my God.
He's Paul. This is Paul.
This is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Rob. That's right. It's good to know you, or at least it's been good to know you. When we come back, they're not going to be here. So, no, actually they will be. So we can't get rid of some people. Yeah. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
My first 1911, when my dad finally broke down, it's a very sad story because of what the gun actually was, and I didn't appreciate it. He had traded a Winchester 22 pump rifle. I think it was like a model 62 or 61 or 62 or something like that. I'm not certain. That was a gun that we'd shot since I was a kid. He traded it to a family friend that had what looked like a Gold Cup, but at the time it was called a National Match.
I remember those.
Before the Gold Cup came out. Brand new in the box. I doubt the guy had ever shot it.
Oh,
I know. It's not getting better. It's not getting better. And I didn't like the front sight on it, so I filed the front sight into a ramp instead of. If I had this gun now, I'm sure it'd be worth thousands because it was perfect. I'm not sure he'd ever shot it. And then I belt sanded because the hammer spur. I'd read how you got to shorten the hammer spur because they bite you. So before I ever shot it, I'd ruined the gun.
I just, you know, you're closer. Can you hit him? Just
I deserve it. I won't even.
Well,
I won't.
we all have something in our past that we go, ugh, what was I thinking?
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
That was another one. The first revolver I had when I started getting serious about shooting. I needed to build a gun for Bianchi Cup.
Yeah.
And it's the gun that Doug ended up winning the first time he cleaned the Bianchi Cup. I traded that 27, and this still hurts when I even think about it, for money and some LE take-in Model 10 that had like San Francisco PD stamped on the side. And at the time, I just did not appreciate it, but I wanted a gun so bad to shoot the Bianchi Cup that was my only option out. And I know it broke my dad's heart when I told him I traded that. I think he went to try to go buy it, but the other guy had already sold it at the gun shop.
All right, we're back with you. We're actually during the break. We're talking about, well, you're telling one of the stories of guns we never should have let go. You traded something away. Each of us has at least one gun that we just never, ever should have let go. Rob, now I don't know if that's the one, but pick the one that you should not have let go.
It's that first revolver that I traded to get a different revolver. Sounds stupid, to build a PPC gun on for the Bianchi Cup. Mm-hmm. So this would have been 81 or 82 when this occurred. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I didn't have eyes for what I had, only for what I needed or wanted. And, you know, just an old beat-up turn-in Model 10 and a couple $100. And that's the gun, because I still have my first gun. My first gun was Model 34, round butt, 4-inch 22-32 kick gun. I got that when I was 12. And that gun will never go. But my second one was that 357. And it still hurts to think about.
I know.
Because
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul, how about you?
Oh, mine was was the first Model 52 that I owned, and I said, you know, well, it's kind of outdated, you know, and oh my God, was that? It took me all about 3 weeks after I sold it, saying, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Mine was a factory 5-inch barrel Model 27. You know, I mean, what a sweet revolver.
I've got one if you need one.
Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite guns.
It is, isn't it?
I've gone back and tried to replace that, you know, but I realized even though I bought another 6.5-inch 27,
Not the same.
it doesn't matter.
No.
That was the one my dad gave me for Christmas.
Yeah, 5-inch factory, Model 27. Just big old heavy gun and kind of the perfect compromise barrel length. And, you know, let that one go, and later on you're thinking, you know, you could have found some money some other way. You didn't need the money that badly.
I did not need to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's one nice thing. With age and maturity comes the ability to not ever have to put yourself in that situation.
And also to wallow in self-pity.
Absolutely. We all have that. So now instead of trying to sell guns, I just figure out how I'm going to buy another safe. I mean, it's...
We are so alike. You just don't even know.
You guys are brothers from different mothers or something.
Man.
That's amazing. So, all right, Rob, you had one more 1911 laying around there. Just kind of these guns just kind of laying around.
Yeah, this is our new MC operator. So what's cool about it is it's a 1911 in 45 ACP, but the newest version of it has what we call octo grips. The trick is how much texture can you put on a gun before it becomes abrasive, and checkering for most people. You get a lot of people. Now I want it as sharp as it can be, but a lot of shooters are like, we want it to be less abrasive. It hurts my hand. So we've come up with a pattern that resists moving in your hand but doesn't tear up your clothing. And the rest of it's a loaded package. You know, one of our loaded package 1911s, so it's different sights and things. But the operator means it has an accessory rail on the front, and you know what's really driven that whole thing? It's been all the polymer guns that came out. You know, it was easy. When we do a new mold, well, we're going to put an accessory rail on the thing. It's stupid not to.
Right.
And that's now leached over into the 1911 market, and along with optical sights, I think you're going to start seeing those rails on almost everything.
Funny you mentioned the aggressive checkering. Smith brought out I can't remember what it was. It was a 45. We're talking about mid-'80s something.
The thing with the scalloping looking thing?
Yeah, and the checkering
945?
It was a 945.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And the checkering was so sharp. We took it to Thunder Ranch. I said, I'll just do a full weeks-long shooting school with this gun. I'm bleeding all over the gun at this point. We're trying to find any kind of racer tape or anything we can wrap around this thing. And we're calling back to the factory, and they're going, no, it's like it's an achievement of engineering and find things that we can make these points.
Well, we called them fish scales.
Yeah.
Little did we didn't. I mean, what we failed to tell everybody that fish haven't been a piranha. But listen, it did not. You got to admit, it did not move in your hand.
No,
it did not. You know, and even when I tried to throw it on the ground, I could not get rid of this gun.
There's a cheese grater.
You remember that gun?
Listen, you might still see scars.
It's like a cheese grater. That was awesome. That's what I want. But
it's the never-ending conflict between shooters who know what they want and designers and engineers who say, but we could also do this cool thing.
It fundamentally becomes a problem because you want to give the customer what they're asking for. And so, you know, we have a bad habit of talking to serious shooters, you know, regular, and you're trying to find that thing. So everybody talks about, man, you know, it'd be nice. Well, my hands sweat, that gun moves around. So you give any engineer that concept, and he takes it, he focuses on it, and then he goes way out here with it. And,
sure.
and those things happen.
That's right. If 3 is good, let's give him 47.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Exactly.
You know. All right. Speaking of sweaty hands, safety tip for people. If you're out of the range, your hands are sweaty, and you're shooting your handgun, and it slips out of your hand.
Are you alluding to when I dropped my gun at the Nationals a couple of years ago, Tom?
For anybody.
Still a painful memory.
I've known a lot of people. No, but I can talk about from the safety standpoint.
Well, I mean, the first thing you do whenever you're starting to lose control of the gun is you get your finger off the trigger so you can't fire it. And you maintain one thing and one thing only, and that's muzzle direction. No matter what the condition is, it's whether you're shooting fast, no matter what the circumstances are, you always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Because you go back to rule number 1. It says don't point at anything.
All right. And then, but if it comes out of your hand, you're drawing or something, don't try to grab
like I did.
And snatch your gun.
My grandfather, when I used to start whining, had the famous phrase for that, and it was, Paul, let it go, let it go. Okay?
Let it go.
Because you see, it's common. Somebody drops a gun, they reach for it, and they grab it, and guess what they're doing? They're gripping it. And
a finger or thumb or something's liable to go in that trigger guard, and no telling where the muzzle's pointing at this point.
One of the silliest, just along the same line, was silliest AEDs I've ever had was doing speed draws, and I came up and missed my grip, and I shot the gun with my left trigger finger.
Whoa.
So as I presented the gun, it didn't go like this. It went like this, and I went and shot it like that.
Going down range.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was before I wanted to shoot, so it has to be an AD. It wasn't unsafe in that I shot anything. I mean,
right.
I actually, almost hit the target I was shooting at.
Right.
But I mean, it's silliest things.
We go back to don't get ahead of yourself.
Right.
Building blocks.
Walk before you run.
And for most people, 90%. If you think 90%, you're probably going about as fast as you really can under control. Is that fair?
Yeah, if that fast. Most people have about half the ability they wish they did and think they do.
There's a whole study on that I just read about. It's like the Kelling, Dunning, Kruger something, and the whole thing was that people who are incompetent at anything think that they are competent, and those who are very competent tend to underestimate their ability. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It is.
All right, hold on a second. We'll take another break here. We're going to be coming back. We're talking with Paul Pluff from Smith & Wesson. We got all kind of stuff to lay it out here. We're having some fun. Rob Leatham from Springfield Armory, of course, top shooter, and evidently a lover of wildlife because they keep coming up and sneaking up behind
more?
What can I tell you? All right, we'll be right back with more Gun Talk. All right, Rob Leatham, Paul Pluff. We're looking at this lineup of guns, and we've kind of got the whole span. We've got 1911s. We're talking about more than 100-year-old design. We've got polymer guns here. Rob, you said something during the break that was very interesting about competition and the new guns that we have available.
Well, Springfield Armory makes a line called XDs, then XDMs, and Smith & Wesson's M&P is right here. But this category of gun out of the box, not this particular model because of the porting, but the identical model without a ported barrel would shoot in what is called production division. And I constantly am fielding questions from people. What do you do to the guns to make it so you can shoot them as fast as you do? Or they seem to not kick at all. I says, well, I shoot a lot. I train a lot. So no, it's got to be springs and stuff. Well, I said it's really not. I mean, the springs and the whole setup. I work on the trigger a little bit on my XDMs, but the rest of it's fairly stock because the rules on that are to make sure that you can go and buy this gun. You can go down to your local dealer and buy this gun from Smith and pick whatever brand you want. There's Sig's, Berettas, whatever. Right. And for $500 or $600, you can walk out the door with a gun that's capable of winning the national championship. So I mean, this division of gun is more. Once again, it came out of service pistols. It all started. All the polymer pistols came as being heavy-duty service pistols. Mm-hmm. But as people get interested in it, they start developing much more higher-level guns like this version.
All right. Do we right now have the very best guns that we've ever had access to? I mean, there's never been a time like this, has there?
No, there hasn't. I mean, in reality, and we had this conversation also last night, but we talk about, the evolution in the technology, and I don't care if you're talking computer software, computers, life goes on, and it's constantly evolving, and the same thing goes for handguns. I mean, the reality is you got to look at, 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
we couldn't make that gun.
We couldn't have made the gun, okay? And just the concept, I remember when polymer guns first came out, I'm an old traditionalist and said, why would you want to carry a plastic gun?
Combat Tupperware, we call it.
Yeah. It's the technology has changed. I mean, the durability of the guns, the accuracy, the functionality of them, it's all right there.
You can't do curves like that in metal either.
You can't.
Well, it's very difficult and would be expensive to do it. And that the 1911 design is so good, that's why it's still around. Mm-hmm. Even traditionally, it's changed very little. But the polymer designs, what we can do, with CNC and with the molding, like we can do a complex pattern on the frame and come up with a gun that costs half as much.
Right.
So it's a bargain because our initial cost developing the molds is expensive as all get out.
Right.
but the per piece price is so inexpensive that with all the sales that are being made, it makes more sense to develop into this area.
It's actually made it also easier to get into shooting, less expensive, easier to get into competition.
Oh, way easier.
And we have so many people getting involved in competition. It's a very open and welcoming activity. You do that. I guess the other thing I would, as we kind of head out the door on this thing is that I know that both of you guys get involved in a lot of shooting programs, helping people get started. How rewarding is that?
Well, for me, it's part of what drives me. It's just when you bring in somebody that's their first time and you see them light up and
There's
they walk
nothing
away,
like it.
Oh my God!
There's nothing like it to take a new shooter in there, especially someone that's on the fence on the thing. It's like, I'm not really sure I want to do this. Okay, well, we'll start off with a 22. And I'll get to shoot that with my original Model 34. And we shoot that. It says, are you good with that? If you don't want to shoot anymore, you don't have to shoot another round.
Right.
It says, if you are, we go up and we shoot a 38 revolver, then we shoot a 9mm pistol, and then a 45. And to see them go from, I'm not sure about this, though, when can we come again?
Yeah.
When can we go do this another time?
Right.
Well, it goes from fear to just pure joy and excitement. And, boy, that's a turn on.
That is a turn on.
And then you made a convert for life. And, and it is a lifetime sport, as we know, because people even as old as Rob Latham can still shoot this.
And can still be competitive.
Says the two older guys sitting here. Well, thanks, guys. This has been lots of fun. I mean, we basically talk about guns until we get here. We talk about guns while we're here, and then when we leave, we'll be talking about guns.
Gun guys.
Gun guys. It's all a passion.
Gun guys.
It is that, isn't it? Gun guys. All right, SpringfieldArmory.com and Smith-Wesson.com. You can see all this new stuff is on the website right now. It's available, so just go take a look at it. In the meantime, don't go far, because we're coming back with more Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. I'm so glad that you guys joined us.